Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, Victoria police have charged this man with murder in the beating death of a 67-year-old man. Victoria Regional Airport receiving $40 million in grant money to begin several improvement projects. ERCOT has issued a voluntary conservation notice in this heat wave.
Well, the heat is definitely on, but so is the activity in the tropics. We'll have the latest on Tropical Storm Brett, which is headed toward the Caribbean. We have behind it Invest 92, and you're not going to believe this, but Cindy could be developing very soon as well. All that coming up in a moment.
Hunter Biden has reached an agreement with the Justice Department to plead guilty to misdemeanor tax offenses. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm James Munoz. Karina Garcia has the day off. Monday night, just before 7:30, Victoria police officers were in the 600 block of East Juan Lynn Street, where they found a 67-year-old man dead in the front yard. He's identified as Jesus Sanchez Nino. Police say he was beaten to death. Earlier that day, around 6:30 p.m., authorities arrested 38-year-old Alejandro Reyes Jr. in the 100 block of West Juan Street. It was a welfare check. Officers ended up arresting Reyes on charges of public intoxication. Reyes was already in custody when authorities added murder charges in the death of Sanchez Nino. Reyes is being held without bond. The city of Seadrift is welcoming a new police chief. 25 News Now reporter Adarius McCormick is live there with more. Adarius?
That's right, James. Seadrift Police Department invited us here to meet new Chief Marie Carrizales. Marie Carrizales stepped in as interim chief back in May while Leonard Bermia was suspended. Bermia was fired on June 14th due to proven sexual assault. An independent investigation found evidence of Bermia sexually harassing two subordinate employees. Though he admitted to the conduct, Bermia said the actions were consensual. However, there was no evidence of consent in the investigation. Back in April, some community members wanted Seadrift PD defunded. Later, we're going to talk to the new chief about how she plans to alleviate public fears and what she plans to do in her position as the new chief. Reporting live in Seadrift, I'm Adarius McCormick, KAVU TV, 25 News Now.
Victoria Regional Airport will soon see about $40 million in grant money to begin some improvement projects. Leaders at the airport say United Airlines is doing well at Victoria Regional and some infrastructure improvements are needed. The airport has a number of projects in the works.
We moved to the south side area of the airport where we have three taxiways that intersect it's a little confusing. We're going to fix the geometry on that area, and then eventually we move to the reconstruction of the runway.
The taxiway and runway project should start within the next year. The airport is seeking additional grant money for a new terminal. Here's your viewer poll this afternoon. Scan the QR code right there on your screen to vote now. How often do you fly out of Victoria Regional? Once a year, twice a year, never, several times a year? We want to know. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to participate. We'll have an update on 25 News Now at 6. On Monday, Texas set a record for the state for energy demand in June. Peak demand for electricity hit just over 79,000 megawatts, shattering the previous record of more than 76,000 megawatts set last year. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, which operates the state's electric grid, issued a voluntary conservation notice today. The notice starts at 4 p.m. and runs to 8 p.m. every day, during which time consumers are asked to reduce energy use. ERCOT's president and CEO says the state could set a new demand record today.
So I want to be clear, ERCOT is not experiencing any emergency conditions right now. Voluntary conservation is a very widely used industry tool that can help lower demand for specific periods of time. Yesterday, we broke an unofficial record at this point. It'll be official once all the counting and calculations are done. But yesterday, we broke a June peak demand record.
Temperatures across Texas will run 10 to 15 degrees above normal for at least the next week. In South Texas, the heat index could make it feel as hot as 120 degrees. It is hot out there. As you just saw, electricity demand is up and the state is asking you to use less electricity between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. if you can. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez. Mac?
Thank you very much, James. Another thing we can all do to sort of help us through this time is, your washer dryer. Well, do it at midnight or 9 or 10 o'clock at night so that we're not using it during the peak hours of use. Well, it's a hot one again today, 96 right now. It feels like 111. How long have we been talking about this hot weather? We've got another 10 days out of it, and then in a moment we'll be taking a look at the tropics because Brett is coming alive, and we'll have all that in a moment. James, back to you.
Thank you, Mac. Thousands of people in East Texas are still without power after last week's storms. Organizations are handing out ice and water to combat the sweltering heat. Several shelters open to provide affected residents a space with food, water, and internet. Area crews are working to restore services. They expect most residents to have their power fully restored sometime this week. Several counties in the region remain under heat warnings. An Uber driver was shot by his passenger because she thought he was kidnapping her to Mexico. Authorities arrested 48-year-old Phoebe Copas. She faces charges of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. El Paso police responded to the shooting call last Friday around 2:20 p.m. The Uber driver, 52-year-old Daniel Pierda Garcia from El Paso, was driving Copas to a destination in El Paso's lower valley. Copas thought she was being taken into Mexico and shot Pierda. Authorities say there was no evidence to support a kidnapping was taking place.
At this moment, we still have not been able to determine the reason behind the shooting, and there is, of course, right now an active investigation. Now, there was preliminary reports that a kidnapping may have been involved or may have taken place. At this moment in the investigation does not support that any kidnapping had taken place.
Pierda was critically wounded and taken to the hospital for emergency help. He's still in the ICU. Rather, the hospital Copas is held in lieu of a $1 million bond. Hunter Biden has reached a deal with federal prosecutors to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax offenses, and he'll enter a diversion program to take care of a felony weapons charge.
After a years-long investigation, Hunter Biden, President Joe Biden's sole surviving son, has reached a tentative agreement with the Justice Department. The deal calls for the younger Biden to plead guilty to misdemeanor tax offenses, and he's expected to reach an agreement with federal prosecutors on the felony charge of possessing a firearm as a drug user.
Sources close to Hunter Biden believe that this will end the more than 5-year investigation that has dogged Hunter and his father.
Investigators have been probing whether Hunter Biden paid adequate taxes on millions of dollars in income, including money he earned from overseas business dealings with China and Ukraine. In Ukraine, Hunter Biden served on the board of a natural gas firm from 2014 to 2019. While serving as vice president, Joe Biden was tasked by President Obama to oversee U.S. foreign policy in Ukraine. President Biden has said he's never spoken to his son about his foreign business dealings. In an interview with ABC News in 2019, Hunter Biden defended his private ventures, but acknowledged he didn't anticipate the political impact on his father's career.
I made a mistake in retrospect as it related to creating any perception that was wrong.
Although the criminal probe was led by David Weiss, a U.S. attorney appointed by former President Trump, that hasn't stopped Republican criticism.
If you are the president's leading political opponent, the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal.
The White House responding with a statement saying the president and first lady love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life. The Trump campaign, though, also slamming that tentative agreement as a sweetheart deal. Justin Finch, ABC News, Washington.
The date for the criminal trial of former President Trump is set. The trial into Trump's mishandling of classified documents will start mid-August. Arguments for the parameters for the jury trial will happen at the end of July. Those dates could be pushed back because of the case's complexities and possible issues related to classified information. Trump is charged with 37 counts of mishandling top secret documents after he left office and for obstructing the investigation. For more on today's news stories, come to crossroadstoday.com. Read the Texas Tribune story on Texas senators including more property tax cuts for businesses. That's under news. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today News. Hit the like button and click on the notification bell. Stay with us. Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5. Social media personality Andrew Tate charged with rape, human trafficking, and forming a criminal gang to exploit women. Also, 4 people were killed in New York in a fire that broke out at an e-bike shop. 2 other people are in critical condition. Were killed and 2 other people were critically hurt in a fire overnight in New York. It happened at an e-bike shop on Manhattan's Lower East Side. The blaze started just after midnight, with first responders rescuing people from an apartment above the repair shop. Police say 2 men and 2 women were killed. Authorities determined lithium-ion batteries were used in the e-bikes, and that's what caused the fire. Romanian prosecutors say social media personality Andrew Tate was charged with rape, human trafficking, and forming a criminal gang to exploit women. Prosecutors have also charged Tate's brother and 2 Romanian women. All 4 were initially detained in December. Tate is known on social media for projecting a luxury lifestyle and expressing misogynistic views. Tate, his brother, and the 2 women are accused of forming a criminal group in 2021 to commit the crime of human trafficking in Romania, the U.S., and Britain. Rescuers are racing against the clock as they search for a submersible with 5 people on board. It went missing on a voyage to the Titanic's wreckage. Overnight, the Coast Guard searched an area on the surface about the size of Connecticut. Now that area has expanded underwater. The ocean craft's oxygen supply is dwindling as crews navigate choppy waters and low visibility in a remote part of the North Atlantic Ocean. This afternoon, U.S. Coast Guard Captain Jamie Frederick said the crew has less than 2 days of oxygen.
So first of all, it's an estimate, right? Because we know from the data we were using as a starting point was 96 hours. We know at this point we're approximately about 41 hours.
He says they don't know if that's enough time to rescue those on board the 21-foot sub. The Coast Guard and the Royal Canadian Air Force are deploying aircraft and vessels to help. The sub wasn't heard from since losing contact and its mothership about an hour and 45 minutes into its descent. Eating healthy can be a struggle anytime all year long. It's especially harder over the summer when children are out of school and routines are disrupted.
More time at home may mean less time focusing on healthy eating habits.
Kids need 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks per day. So our job as the caregiver is really to set that routine and what that looks like for our children.
Dietitian Catherine Sherry says keeping kids healthy over the summer should start at the grocery store. Let children be a part of the process, allowing them to pick out which fruits or veggies they'd like to eat. When it comes to snacks, Sherry says pair them with at least 2 different food groups.
Having a trail mix with a piece of fruit. So we've got some protein and then we've got the fiber in the fruit. Having some popcorn, maybe with some edamame. We've got the fiber with the popcorn and we've got some protein with that edamame.
Other ideas, freeze-dried fruit and some peanut butter crackers, yogurt, fruit, and some crunchy cereal so they can make their own yogurt parfait. A hard-boiled egg and cheese is a great high-protein snack, or some hummus, veggies, and crackers to dip.
All those snacks are well-rounded that have fiber, protein, and help to keep your kiddo fuller longer.
Meals should continue being balanced too. Sherry says to fill half the plate with fruits and veggies, the other half with protein and whole grains. And finally, make sure your child stays hydrated. Offer water throughout the day.
Ensuring that we're not drinking too much of the sodas, the juices, the Gatorades that have a lot of sugar in them.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And you need to notice there was no Snickers in there, you know. That's a summer break for me. Anyway, good afternoon, folks. It's 98. Actually, that was our high temperature for today. The overnight low of 81. Yes, we're still above average, and yes, we're still going to be on the warm side of things. We'll be looking at the tropics, however, coming up in a minute and talk about Brett. All that coming up in just a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Again, we continue with this heat and humidity, but I was telling James, you know, it's kind of like having a free sauna around. You know, you can just go out and perspire all that stuff out of your system. 98 was our high today, 99 in Houston, 104 in San Antonio, and these are the observed highs for today. So it's not just us, folks. It's pretty much the entire state of Texas. And in fact, if you look at it real carefully, it's only the state of Texas that is in this record-breaking heat right about now. You can see even El Paso at 100 and San Angelo at 114. Now, these are your highs tomorrow. Again, we're in the upper 90s, almost at 100, and so is everybody else. Is there a change in sight? I looked at as many computer models as I could find. How far can we go? 7, 10, 11 days. And July the 3rd, okay, just write that down. July the 3rd. Something's happening that might get us out of this. So if you seriously write it down and remember that I said July the 3rd, something will be happening that will actually change our weather pattern. How about that? So until then, we deal with the heat. Here we are. Here's the crossroads. We have another thunderstorm that popped up near Junction. This would be up there in Real County. It's a severe thunderstorm. These are those big pulse things that just pop up in the middle of the afternoon, last for about 2 hours and then collapse. But they are getting some stormy weather up there with possible 1-inch hail. But as far as we're concerned, not a drop to be found. So the heat advisory continues for Victoria, the crossroads, and pretty much the entire state of Texas. That's where that thunderstorm is located, and they're looking at it as severe. So heat index, high heat index, excessive heat index. I mean, there's two levels. There's heat advisory, and there's excessive heat at alert. That second one is when we expect the heat index to get up to 115, 110. So let's look at the tropics. We have Brett here, and we have another disturbance behind it. And as I mentioned, within 2-3 days, we may have another disturbance even behind that. So will they develop? Well, Brett has already developed. You can see the circulation going out there. It is already a named storm. It is, and you can see by these computer models, they're all pretty much in agreement that it's going to go over the Lesser Antilles. So Martinique, Guadeloupe, Barbados, those areas are going to be dealing with Category 1 storm at about Thursday. So Thursday is the day they get it. And then it breaks out into the Caribbean. And here's where it gets really weird. Remember, we talked about that conditions can be favorable or unfavorable for storm development. Well, at this point in time, you'd say, well, in open water, it's got to get going, got all that energy. But it's running into unfavorable conditions, so it's going to be churning against all odds into the mid-Caribbean, and some computer models have it falling apart right about here. In other words, it's no longer a big storm, and the remnants of it having going toward Central America. So the good news for us is that it's not going to be strengthening or coming into the Gulf of Mexico. It should stay, Brett should stay down south. Here's another view, and this is the 7-day outlook. You can see the storm, you can see the circulation, there's the Lesser Antilles, and then it rolls into the Caribbean, falls apart. Interesting, huh? All right, if you're in the Port Lavaca area, we're looking at some rather warm temperatures, getting up to a high of 94. And then tomorrow, if you're in Cuero, it's getting up to 101. I wish I could tell you there was something else we could do, but there's not. Whatever you're doing to beat the heat, that's what you got to keep doing, because we're looking at heat index hovering at about 115 to 116 through the entire 7 days of the forecast. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Scan that and put Crossroads Today on your cell phone. James, we'll toss it back to you.
Thank you so much. Coming up next, we'll take a look at Wall Street. Plus, U.S. home construction surged in May in the fastest pace in more than a year. The Dow off 246 points, the S&P 500 losing 21 points, and the Nasdaq down 23 points. Oil down $1.28, closing at $70.50 a barrel. U.S. home building has surged in May. Data released today by the Census Bureau showed housing starts were expected to slightly decline. Instead, construction climbed nearly 22% from the previous month. That's the fastest pace in more than a year. Low inventory in the existing home market has continued to boost interest in new home builds. The number of single-family units rose in May to 1.63 million, which is above expectation for 1.40 million. Automaker Rivian is accepting Elon Musk's invitation to use Tesla's superchargers for its cars. Today, the Amazon-backed company announced they're adopting Tesla's North American Charging Standard, or NACS. In 2025, it will start building its R12 pickup and R1S SUV with NACS-style charging ports. Upcoming smaller models will also have the Tesla-style charging ports for current Rivian owners. The company said by spring of next year, customers will use adapters to access them. Rivian joins Ford and General Motors in adopting Tesla's charging systems. We'll take one last look at your forecast with Mac when we come back. More than 100 horses were rescued from a farm in poor condition. In Virginia, where more than 100 horses were rescued from poor living conditions. Authorities in Mount Jackson responded to a complaint last Thursday. They found a number of severely malnourished horses, some with visible hip bones and ribs. Authorities say there was little food. Several horses are now on the road to recovery at a rescue farm in Afton. No word if the original owners will face charges, and they need a lot of water too.
They do. They drink a lot of water, and you just have to be able to provide it for them. I guess down here as well, you know, people outdoors. Some people have their pets outdoors, and do they have water and do they have shade? Can they cool down? Those are things we all.
Tomorrow's the first day of summer?
Yes, sir.
Seems like it was a few weeks ago.
We're going to have a party. We're going to have it's the beginning of summer. It feels like the end of it. It's pretty amazing. So, yeah, folks, no change in sight as far as we're concerned. Still hovering at around 100 degrees. Remember, I told you July the 3rd, some weather pattern will be changing for us, and hopefully we'll get out of these blazing numbers. I'm not looking for a tropical storm, but I am looking for a change in our pattern, and so we'll keep our fingers crossed that we see some hope at the end of the horizon here.
All right, Mac, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. We hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 6.